Democratic candidates for District 7 County Council seat. The order they are sitting on stage was chosen randomly. Andrew Eisman had a family event, and so he was unable to attend tonight, and he asked us to say just a few words to explain his absence. He says, unfortunately, my son Devereaux is a 5th grader at Sequoia Elementary and has been playing the trumpet for 2 years. Because of COVID, he had never had a concert until tonight. So he expresses his apologies for being overbooked and would like to, and he still would like to entertain any questions that you might have. I think for the first time in a while, Olney and District 7 will have a strong voice no matter who you choose. Hopefully I can meet more of you at your doorstep in the next 5 to 6 weeks, and maybe this weekend at the Strawberry Festival. I wish you a successful event tonight. Thank you. Now, back in 2020, the election, a referendum was passed to increase the Montgomery County Council to 11 members, made up of 7 districts and 4 at-large seats. District 7 includes the area from Route 28 and Ednor Road north up to the Howard County line, and out west to Durwood and Montgomery Village. So it includes Sandy Spring, Ashton, Brighton, Brookville, Olney, Durwood, Goshen, Laytonsville, Montgomery Village, parts of Goshen, Cedar Grove, Damascus, and even a part of Mount Airy. So essentially, this is the first time the greater Olney area could be represented by a county council member who actually lives in Olney area. So tonight, we have the Democratic candidates on stage for this forum. One of them will win the Democratic primary on July 19th and will face the Republican candidate in November. Now this candidate is Harold Maldonado. Did he make it here, or are we stuck in traffic? He's invited and he plans to be here tonight. He is running unopposed in the Republican primary, so he will advance to the general election. So in the fall, look for more forums like this so that you can get a chance to look at who's on the general election ballot. But tonight is focused on the Democrats because there's competition. Now, just to put things into context, what does the county council members do? The general role that they play is they set the tax rate required to fund the capital and operating budget. They approve all land use plans, the Thrive 50 and local master plans, as well as the solid waste and water supply and sewerage plans. I know this sounds very exciting. They act on zoning changes. They exercise oversight on county programs. They serve as the Board of Health for Montgomery County. And they confirm appointments made by the county executive and appoints members to the Planning Board and Board of Appeals. Now, tonight's forum was put together by individuals in several civic groups, including the Sandy Spring Ashton Civic Association, the Greater Olney Civic Association, the Olney Town Center Advisory Committee, the Olney Civic Fund, and the Olney Chamber of Commerce. It is being recorded, and we will post it most likely to the GOCA website, the Greater Olney Civic Association's website. We do want to extend our appreciation for Our Lady of Good Counsel High School for the use of this beautiful Performing Arts Center, so thank you. We will start with 2 minutes of opening statements by each of the candidates so that they can introduce themselves. Each candidate will then be asked different questions that they have not been given beforehand. They will have 3 minutes to answer, and no, you don't have to use your whole time. We will then allow, at the end, each candidate 4 minutes at the end to address maybe questions they wish they got asked, that got asked of another candidate, or anything they'd like to share as a concluding remarks. At that point, our 90 minutes together will be done. After the event, we will invite you out into the hall to directly interact with the candidates and enjoy some cookies and snacks. The Board of Elections is out there, and they are looking for additional election judges. They desperately need judges with the early voting. There's many days of that, many precincts, so if you have time, they train you. I think sometimes you get paid. And students can get SSL hours. So please, Nina, raise your hand in the yellow shirt. She will be out there. Also, if you need to register to vote or you want to change your party affiliation, you can still do that up until another week or two, June 28th or something, and she can help you with that if that's something you would like to do tonight. So, let's get started with opening statements, and we will start with Paul Geller. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you very
Is the mic on?
Yes, I think it is.
There we go.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for being here. My name is Paul Geller. I'm a very proud Olney resident, and the reason why I'm running for county council is I want to make our community, District 7, a better place to live, work, and learn in. How will we go about doing this? To make it a better place to live, I want intelligent traffic signaling countywide so we don't have to encounter red light after red light after red light like I did last night. Hit 8 red lights on Shady Grove Road, unacceptable. I want to make this a better place to work. I want to make sure that we fill some of the 10 million square feet of vacant office space with high-paying jobs, great jobs, so people don't have to commute to Northern Virginia, DC, Howard County, and elsewhere to work. I also want to make this a great place to learn in. I want to make sure that our students are achieving their highest potential, not through pressure, but through encouragement, through less testing, through making sure that our students in our classrooms have what they need to succeed, which is something that I'm known for as a past president of MCC PTA. Mostly, I want to do something unheard of in this area. I want to listen to you. I want to listen to you, Silvers and Kaufmans and Uzziks and everyone else in the audience. I want to be here for you. Dana, you do a great job of advocacy for SROs. I like to be where you are and hear what you need, because as a great council member, you should be present in the community, not just at events like this, but coming to you where you are. For many years, I earned a reputation as a PTA leader who came all over the county to visit with people and talk to them about their issues and importance. I will do the same for you, and I ask for your vote and support in the coming election. Thank you.
Thank you. 8 seconds to spare. Sharif.
Thank you, and thank you for attending today. My name is Sharif Hadayat. I'm a Laytonsville resident living in District 7. My history is I graduated from the University of Maryland, College Park. I think a lot of us did, actually. And had a call in for public service. So I joined the police department, the only candidate here that actually served on the streets, protecting all of your lives with my life. I took an oath to do that, and I'm proud of that record that I have. In addition to, so while on the police department, this commitment to public service made me want to be the community service officer. This is the officer that actually handles quality of life issues. It can be as simple as something like a parking complaint. It can go full-blown hate crime. I've investigated all those type of crimes. As a matter of fact, I ended up winning the ADL, the Anti-Defamation League's Shield Award in recognition of solving a hate crime down in the Wheaton district. I'm also a commercial pilot. I've been in many positions of trust as a commercial airline pilot as well as a flight instructor. And as a flight instructor, I've worked with the youth. Particularly out of the airport here in Gaithersburg, which is a part of the District 7 community. I focus my attention there, and that also includes the Our House community. So even though I have a career in arresting people, it's when they get out of jail or when they come back into society. I mentor the kids over at the Our House facility over there on Zion Road. So I'm proud of my record of public service, and I hope to, since, now that I showed you that I had a track record of trust, I would hope that I could trust with your vote. I could have the trust of your vote. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Dawn Lukey?
Good evening, and thanks for having us. So I'm Dawn Lukey, and I'm a resident of Ashton, and I'm going to ask you straight out of the gate for your vote and support this July during the primary. And let me tell you why. I am a first-generation college student attending the University of Pennsylvania. I then spent a year doing public interest law on public health issues up in Boston for the Tobacco Products Liability Project. And then I came down here to Maryland to go to law school, and I've been in Maryland for 25 years. I have a certification in health law, which is beneficial to the county council's function as our health board for the county. And I worked in private practice. I've also worked in private corporate world in an IT company, LexisNexis. Some of you may know that company. And I've spent the past 9 years working for the Office of the Attorney General with Brian Frosch. My work and my vision and what I bring to the table back here from my home community is education, public safety, public health, and all the different tentacles that go underneath that. Moreover, I currently serve on the AG's task force for hate bias and hate crimes. I don't and I've never had a badge, but I train law enforcement officers, I train in implicit bias, I train in hate crimes, and I train all of our SROs throughout the state of Maryland, along with our school safety employees. With respect to education, while the county council does not engage in education policy, we have a fiduciary duty based on the tax dollars that are spent on MCPS's budget to make sure that they are compliant with our state programming. My knowledge brings that to the table, and I can deliver for you. Thank you.
Thank you. Jacqueline?
Good evening. My name is Jacqueline Manger. I've lived in Montgomery County for nearly 20 years now. And after decades working in multiple industries while raising my 2 children here in the county, I now teach entrepreneurship at the University of Maryland, and I'm managing director of the Center for Enterprise and Markets there, where we research the conditions for the creation of business and for a broadly shared prosperity. And now, I'm running to represent you, District 7, on the County Council. Montgomery County is one of the wealthiest counties in the country. The quality of life that my family and that all of us enjoy here is amazing. But when I look around, I still see potential. We have great schools, but we have achievement gaps to fix. We've got to work on safety in our schools and on our streets. Too many families struggle with housing affordability. We have transportation challenges. Creating inclusive economic opportunity and expanding jobs must be all of our priority, because we need to grow our resources to maintain the quality of life that we all enjoy and to tackle some of the challenges that we face. As a business person and an educator, I will bring a different perspective to the County Council. I've successfully advocated for funding in county nonprofits already, and for decades I've been a civic leader in arts, culture, and education. My experience building partnerships to deliver programs in the public and in the private sector will be vital to the new 11-member council. I'm really pleased to be here tonight. I look forward to Barbara and Philippa's questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Ben?
Good evening, everyone. I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules to be here. That's an investment in the democratic process, and I really do want to appreciate that. My name is Ben Wickner. I'm running for County Council here in District 7. I'm running to represent the voice of Up County, the people of Montgomery Village, Durwood, Damascus, Olney, Sandy Spring. You know this area. People who have not been effectively represented in the past. And that's going to change when I am elected to County Council. One of the first things I'm going to do when elected is set up a District 7 People's Committee so that I can stay connected and better serve the people of this district. This is something being a public servant is something I've been doing for many years. For the past 15 years as a local pastor, and then also as the director of the nonprofit, the Equity Center. I started the Equity Center when the county came to me and asked for some help in meeting needs early on in the pandemic in Gaithersburg and Montgomery Village. And since then, we've distributed more than 2 million pounds of food to over 10,000 people. I've led the effort to access well over $1 million of grants and resources to help sustain struggling families. And in getting this done, as you might well imagine, I've worked with the county a good bit. I've learned firsthand and seen firsthand areas that need improvement. As your council member, I want to eliminate redundancy in government. I want to improve communication. I want to identify wasteful programs that need to be changed. This is going to free up taxpayer funds to go towards efforts that help people rather than feed and grow the bureaucracy. It's time to make local government more effective, I believe, and that means supporting local small business, achieving excellence in accountability and education, and improving public safety. My wife and I, we've raised our 7 kids here in the county. We believe in this county, and we're committed to improving our future. I'd like to earn your vote here this evening.
Perfect timing. Thank you. And Paul?
My name is Paul Schwartz, and I am running for District 7 County Council seat. I and my family have been residents of Brookville for more than 25 years. I am running because I am confident that my breadth of experience at the federal, state, and local levels of government places me in a unique position to be a great asset to the County Council and the residents of District 7, especially during current times when the three levels of government must work together in order to accomplish anything. As a Fed for more than 30 years, I served as Director of Trade Enforcement for the United States Customs Service. I then moved on to the Department of Homeland Security, where it was part of my responsibility to help integrate the 26 disparate federal agencies that were becoming the new department. And then after Katrina, I was asked to join FEMA, where it was my responsibility to work with state and local governments to identify vulnerabilities before the next major event, not after. Why this is important is because it required getting buy-in and overcoming resistance, a handy skill for the County Council. After retiring from the federal government, I became an activist, and I worked tirelessly to get the new bill that was just passed this last session, the Tax Reduction Act of 2022, that saw a tax break for seniors over 65. I worked on that bill for over 5 years, and I was very proud that it was finally passed. That gives you $1,000 credit, not a deduction, a credit. It's not going to keep you here if you want to go to Delaware or Maryland, Delaware or Pennsylvania, but at least it's something to put in your pocket rather than somebody else's. I also was very active in getting the Firearms Safety Act passed in Maryland, and as a result of that, I'm very proud to announce that Moms Demand Action designated me as a Gun Sense candidate for 2022. Some of you may also remember me in my weekly columns for the Montgomery County Sentinel. And yes, I didn't write just about how incompetent Trump is. I also wrote about things that were important locally, like Court Watch Montgomery, dealing with domestic violence, and Scotland Storm, which dealt with tutoring for impoverished neighborhood. Right outside of Potomac is Scotland Storm, and they needed that tutoring, and I wrote about that as well. So I feel I combined the three elements and three levels of government together, and that's what I bring to the table.
Thank you very much.
All right, good evening, everyone. I will start by apologizing if I fumble over any of the topics or mispronounce anything, but I'll get right into it with our first question for Mr. Geller. On your website, you indicate you have done many things to support the schools and teachers. For example, you state you secured $1.2 million for Promethean boards, reducing class sizes and getting Chromebooks for students. If you were so successful as you claim, why do you think MCEA did not endorse you?
Excellent question. One of the interesting things about politics in this county sometimes is the organizations that you believe are running a certain way are actually running an opposite way. And it was my honor for several years to actually serve alongside the two MCEA presidents, Chris Lloyd and now their new president. And as they both shared with me, they said, you know, the politics arm is very different, Paul, than the management arm here of this organization. And at first, 4 years ago when I ran for county council at large, I didn't really understand that, but I quickly did understand it. 2 years ago when I also ran for office, it was very interesting because I had never received even an application for their questionnaire. And again this year, I never received an application for their questionnaire. So it's kind of hard to apply for something when you don't receive the questionnaire. That said, it's been a real honor and privilege working with our teachers and our educators in our buildings, the staff, to make what they need possible. One of the big honors that we have here tonight is actually we have former Board of Education member Phil Kaufman here. In 2016, Mr. Kaufman approached me in January and he said, Paul, we need a favor. And I said, what is that, Phil? He's like, we need $100 million more for our schools. He's like, you're the only one crazy enough in this county to ask for it. Well, I took him up on that because I knew from talking to teachers on the ground that we needed to have smaller class sizes. We needed to have pathways for our teachers, pathways to develop teachers from becoming paraeducators to getting into teaching and formalizing those relationships. For more than 4 months, I worked tirelessly along with Melissa McKenna, who's my campaign manager, to make that happen. And I'm very proud to say, for the first time in the county's history, And after Ike Leggett himself, the county executive, told me that it was not going to be possible for this to happen, we exceeded the state mandated maintenance of effort, which means you don't have to give the school system a penny more than you did the year prior, with the exception of having some cost of living increases in there, inflationary increases, and enrollment increases. We got $89.1 million. That was thanks to Phil coming to me and asking me. It was thanks to Melissa working hard. It was thanks to the union leaders, Chris Lloyd, president of MCA at the time, thanks to the other 2 union leaders, and also thanks to a group of 12 non-for-profits in this county that we reached out to and we said, look, when you talk about the operating budget this year, would you do us a favor? Because I would go and I would see all these other wonderful organizations being supported. The libraries, I like the libraries. Firefighters, I like the firefighters. Police, obviously I like the police. And I said, just say make the pie bigger, would you, in your testimony? And as group after group would step forward and give that message, it became clear that we were going to get that budget changed, and we did. And I'm very proud of that. So I thank you for the question.
Thank you. All right, Sharif?
Yes, ma'am.
There's a little tree to build up this question. The Maryland General Assembly passed House Bill 670, creating a new uniform procedure for police accountability and discipline, including the establishment of a Police Accountability Board, the PAB, and an administrative charging committee. In April, the current county council passed a bill to set up a PAB and ACC to comply with the state law. The PAB and the ACC will handle all complaints filed against police officers and will include citizens. So this is a two-part question.
Sure.
Do you believe law enforcement bears responsibility for death or bodily harm caused by police officers who violate the new use of force statute? And do you believe citizens should be involved in the oversight of the police complaints?
The second part, one more time.
Do you believe citizens should be involved in the oversight of the police complaints?
So as it relates to use of force?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so the thing that the public needs to understand is we already have a system in place. And when officers do act inappropriately with a use of force situation, it's handled with the state's attorney. And the citizens do participate because the citizens are, when the officer gets in trouble or is facing charges, they're going to be judged by a jury of their peers. So there is citizens' involvement in that. I think what this policy was designed to pacify people after they saw what happened with George Floyd, which horrified me as well. The difference between me and a lot of people, either in this audience or on this panel, is I'm the only person on this panel that has experienced the effect of what happened with George Floyd. And I'm telling you, as leaders, our current leaders, the county executive and the county council, instead of saying, well, at least we are not that here in Montgomery County, they took the political route and wrote a wave of irresponsibility. The problem is that now you've alienated the police. The police that now our homicide rate, we had over 30 homicides last year. We should be reforming the criminals, not the police. Our attention should be focused on the people committing the crime that are victimizing our community members. I've attended an event the other day. I've listened to the rhetoric of my colleagues here on the panel here. I'm the only police officer and the only candidate that will stay. My focus as your county council member is to focus on the criminality of people. When they commit crimes, they're held accountable by the state's attorney. We lock them up. State's attorney does what they do. Justice is served. They're judged by the jury over their peers. I think that system works. All this other stuff is just political theater. I'm the only candidate here who's actually talked about public safety when it comes to who should lead this police department in the future. And it's somebody who I work for. It's Mark Yamada. How many people know Mark Yamada? Absolutely. He was my district commander. Very good friends. He was a mentor to me. I'm the only candidate on this panel that's made publicly a statement saying, because one of the responsibilities is the confirmation process. So the county executive, whoever it may be for the next term, as county council representing District 7, there will be no voting for anybody unless Mark Yamada is #1 on that list. That's the commitment that I'm going to make to District 7 residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Done? One hurdle to have, sorry, okay, one hurdle to have a major redevelopment in the only town center is the 97-108 intersection. Any improvement will require the development to fix the intersection. So what direction do you think the county should go in to relieve traffic congestion?
Yeah, that's a very, very rough spot. You know, part of it is going to require widening of the road, but we're stuck a bit in what flexibility we have with that.
Excuse me, can you turn that mic on?
Oh, it's not on? No, it's on. No, it wasn't. Oh, is that better? Woo! Sorry.
Turn it off.
Thank you, Art.
I'm just gonna stay back here. How about that? So I would want to take a look at the current structure of where we have ingress and egress with our entrances and exits off of there because, and I know we've talked about this in other panels, there are certain businesses, and I may be a frequenter of that Dunkin' Donuts myself, that end up causing traffic problems. And I've seen this in other areas across the state too, but it's gotten incredibly congested right at that one area. So while we want to encourage additional growth there, we have to be smart about it. That is going to require having an additional mechanisms for entrance and exit that are not directly onto 108 and that are going to have to feed out and around 2 in order to alleviate that burden so that we're not causing traffic to back up. So again, I don't have an engineering degree, so I would be relying upon those who do have that expertise to present that information, present that data to me. But I am highly analytical, and I would take it all into consideration, and especially take into consideration the thoughts and preferences and input of the residents in the areas that were going to be impacted by any such changes, because that's significant to you, both in a need for greater, better traffic flow, but also not compromising or destroying something that you hold dear, right? So we want to make sure that we are open, available, transparent, and listening. Part of being a good advocate is making sure you're listening to others that you are in fact representing, not just doing what you think you want to do yourself. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Banger. Everyone wants to strengthen our schools. Besides giving Montgomery County Public Schools the funding that they request, what as a council member can you do to help them?
So there are 2 things that I want to do in this realm. I talked in my introductory statement about the achievement gap. And so part of strengthening schools, right, that's a catchphrase. For me, the strengthening schools is really strengthening the output of our schools. And that's how are we impacting our students. So one of the ways that I would strengthen our schools, which is really strengthening our public education, is I would look at programs from Head Start and preschool and pre-K. This wouldn't necessarily be done inside of MCPS. The reality is that we're already physically constrained in our school system. Many of you know already that the people we serve are already constrained inside of the physical plant that we have. So it would mean looking outside of our schools and looking to probably nonprofits, mostly that already exist in our community, to partner to do the early childhood education. So as a county council member, yes, we approve the very large school budget, but there's also flexibility for us to be directly funding the capacity building in nonprofits in our very own community to be working on the pipeline into our public schools. And as I've looked at it, I appreciate that Dawn said she's not an engineer. While I work in higher ed, I am not a leadership in this realm of education. For me, it's just the business person and the strategist and the systems person, seeing how do we, take a system and make the funnel that goes into it better. But it seems logically from the council that we can fund this capacity building in nonprofits and improve that early childhood education. An interesting fact is we have like a paltry 500 or so, I have a friend that knows the exact figures, Head Start spots. And if we just took that out of our public schools and did exactly what the feds allow by the Head Start money, we could just by taking it out of the schools, triple the amount of people that we're impacting. That's a wraparound program, it's more than education, but it's an easy fix. I think I would advocate for things like that. The other way I would strengthen our schools is, SROs were mentioned earlier. Our schools need to be safe, and for our kids to succeed in them, they need to feel safe. I've publicly stated, and there are people here in the audience that know that I support school resource officers. Now they're called CEOs. I would want to work on funding our police department so that we had more of a police presence, actually. At the same time, I want to see us expanding the wellness centers in our high schools, having the money for the social workers, having the money for the mental health experts. It's difficult to hire them now. I realize that it's difficult to hire them now, but I would want to fully fund that as well.
Thank you very much. Hi, Mr. Wickner. You're currently a pastor and have served as a pastor of a Christian church. It's the beginning of Pride Month. Do you support the LGBTQ community? For example, would you hire somebody from that group, a person on your staff, allow a person who was assigned male at birth but identifies as a female to possibly use a woman's bathroom? How do you feel about that?
I love that question. Thank you. Yeah, I've been a pastor for 22 years, and you learn how to deal with all types of people, caring for them, leading them, seeking to be a help and to minister to them in that process. And that includes those who come with different orientations, different backgrounds, things which are difficult. And so here's the bottom line. Yes, I support the gay community. I think that they have a lot of challenges in our society, and I think that part of our privilege is to be able to support them in those challenges and to advocate for them. One of my biggest passion areas is the area of justice and equity, diversity, inclusion. This is my fastball, if you want. I've started and I run the Equity Center. I'm actually also a consultant with Equity Associates. We teach businesses, nonprofits, organizations, how to develop equity in the business place, in the marketplace, in organizational structure. And absolutely, this is something that we need to support. Just on a personal note, by the way, and again, I hesitate a little bit to talk because personal doesn't necessarily mean that translate to policy. But my sister is a lesbian. She is married to her partner of many years, and love her, support her, and it's a privilege to do so.
Thank you very much. All right, Mr. Swartz. From the planning website, and this is back history, with 85% of our land already developed or otherwise constrained, accommodating growth will be a challenge. This plan, Thrive 2050, outlines strategies to accommodate growth in ways that not only make room for new residents, but also improve the quality of life for people who are already here. You acknowledge another 200,000 residents will be arriving over the next 30 years. Most plans place new housing next to transit hubs. Since not everyone can use Metro to get to where they need to go, what do you envision the next generation of transit hubs will look like, and how will these new transit hubs relate to new housing?
Yeah, Thrive 2050, the word that is most used to describe that is aspirational. What that means to me is that it says a lot about the what needs to be done, not so much about how and by whom. The problem I have with Thrive 2050, and if I was on the county council now, I would not support it, is because it didn't really capture the input as much as it needed to for the community that's going to be impacted. As far as the housing goes, yes, I've been a proponent of housing near transit hubs, and what that does is not just provides for affordable housing, but it also reduces the reliance on cars, cutting down on congestion. But clearly, there's still going to be a use of cars to get to and from the metro. As far as where to improve the transit, we have to go electric on the buses. We have to be able to provide, it's interesting, We don't have a bus lane on 97, but we have a Dunkin' Donuts lane on 97. And so there is room to improve. What I don't want to do is try to accommodate the 200,000 that are going to be coming in 30 years to the detriment of the people who are already living here. I'm not for rezoning. To me, zoning is a contract, and if you rezone without the overwhelming support of the community that's impacted, then you're violating the contract. So there are no easy answers to this question, and I'm not saying that I have all the answers. But what I do say is my commitment is to involve the community in whatever development is done so that it reflects their concerns as well as addressing the issues that we face.
Thank you very much.
All right, now it's my turn to ask questions, I guess. So we'll start again with Paul Geller. You have said that you have the experience to hit the ground running if you are elected. What do you hope to accomplish if you were to be elected in the first 4 to 6 months on the council? What would be your first priorities, your first 100 days?
Excellent question. Well, first of all, I would hope that if I'm fortunate enough to earn your votes, that starting July 20th, July 21st, reaching out to everyone in the community more formally on all sides of the aisle and saying, what are your top priorities? What is most important to you? Based on being out there in the community for quite a while now, for a number of years, transportation is always like one of the top issues in terms of just getting around in your car. District 7 is mostly a car-based community here. So what can we do to make that better? Obviously, I have the idea of intelligent traffic signals because that's a very inexpensive route to go and will also help you get from point A to point B faster. It also helps to cultivate our business economy, and that's really key. Fred Silver has been very active here at the only Chamber of Commerce in trying to make sure that all of us candidates are very familiar with the fact that the lifeblood of our community, and really what gives our community a lot of character in addition to the homeowners associations, are our local businesses. And what can we do to help them? And I have to tell you, one of the things that really sticks in my craw, and as MCCPTA president, I was a member of the Montgomery County Chamber of Commerce, you would always hear these big picture things. It's always big, big. And I kept thinking, well, I'm in Olney, and that's big too. And you know, we have Durwood, and we have Damascus, and we have all these other wonderful communities here. You know, we have needs too. Yet when you go to the Montgomery County Economic Development Corporation website, all you see is one page devoted to small and medium-sized businesses. So, in that first 4 to 6 months, I am going to work with my colleagues on the council, because everything really needs to be done in aggregate. You got to talk to your colleagues and build coalitions. Make sure that the Montgomery County Economic Development Corporation has a website similar to what they have in the city of Denver, similar to what they have in San Francisco. That's basically a 12-step process for either starting up your business and opening it or growing your business. It's very step-by-step. It has all the contracts that you need, all the contacts that you need as well, and it makes it easy and user-friendly. The other thing that I want to focus on with business is making sure that our Department of Permitting Services is as customer service oriented as I would hope any one of us candidates could ever be for you. Right now, I've heard horror stories about permitting in this county, and I won't even use my traditional story. I'll use one I heard just a couple of weeks ago. I was at Cadence by Olney, which is a new senior living facility on Georgia Avenue. They opened it up, they're about to open it up. It took 7 years to get the permitting for that place. I don't think anyone sitting up here thinks that's okay. You think it takes 7 years in Northern Virginia to get something done? No. I believe in leading by example, and I've always taken on tough challenges and made sure that we've got them done, and I will do the same for this in the first 4 to 6 months. Thank you.
Thank you. Sharif, on the Citizens Coalition for a Council Slate questionnaire, there was a question about economic development, and this was the question. What would you do to create more jobs and higher paying jobs, and to train residents so that they qualify for these higher paying jobs? Your answer was, how am I going to create more jobs? Please tell me you are all kidding. Employers are having a difficult time finding workers to fill all the open vacancies now. The county's affordable and attainable housing draft authors need to stop making racist and ridiculous claims about race and having a crystal ball of what's going to happen in the year of 2045. And so reading that, you probably had an off day that day, but...
Oh, not at all. I meant all that.
Okay, well, based on the answer, it appears you do not agree with any of the data trends made by planning professionals, or you don't think the county should have master plans. So the question is, how do you believe the county should plan for the future? Like, what data should they use to make forecasts, and what areas should they plan for in terms of roads, housing, schools?
Sure, of course, yeah. Nobody can predict the future in 2045. That's a fact. We couldn't predict the pandemic. We couldn't predict 9/11. We can't predict any of this stuff. These things just happen. That's reality. I'm a reality-based person. I've been a police officer for almost 23 years, so you have to come with me with facts. How did they come up with those statistics is the question. How did you set these trajectories of understanding what race is going to do what at when? To me, that's voodoo science. It really is. And the fact that I said that, are you kidding me? Everybody is hiring. You just go to that Dunkin' Donuts that's creating all the traffic on southbound Georgia Avenue in Morningwood, they're hiring. Everybody's hiring. So that's when I answer that question. There's a shortage of people everywhere in just about every industry, and that's why I said that in the questionnaire.
But do you think the county should make plans?
Oh, of course. I don't know where I think there's a little bit of confusion.
Yeah.
I don't believe I said something that the master plan was not a good. What I said was, and that was about Thrive actually. What that was is I don't agree with Thrive. I'm one of the candidates that is anti-Thrive. I'll take it one step further. I won't say it's kind of nice, you know, like typical politician. Maybe it will work. I don't know. I'm anti-Thrive. The reason why I'm anti-Thrive is because I don't believe that people should be renting. I think people should be owning. And Thrive will produce more gentrification. That's number one. Number two, I'd rather see people own their home than rent their home. Do you see what I'm saying? Number three, I really do believe that when you own a home in Montgomery County, you're going to take care of the community. You're going to be a more closer-knit community if you own it versus renting from a landlord. That's just me. Thank you.
I'm glad you could clarify that.
You're welcome.
Dawn?
Yep.
Many in the community found it odd that several of your endorsements, including from the MCEA, which is known for the Apple ballot, came a month before the deadline for candidates to file to run for this position. So they endorsed you before knowing even who all the candidates were going to be. Good for you. But the question is, what was your involvement or interaction with these people and organizations before they publicly endorsed you?
So I think all the candidates up here know that any organization that does endorsements reaches out to candidates after they file. Well, in this particular race, and given the legal challenges to both the state redistricting maps and the federal congressional redistricting maps, there were movements in the dates for the candidate filing deadlines. So there were plenty of organizations who had already put out their materials and done that candidate outreach based on the original timeline with a February 22nd deadline, right? And so people who want to get in the race aren't going to wait till 11:59 p.m. on February 22nd to file for their candidacy, right, if they've really been thinking about this strongly. So, you know, I'm not in control of what these other organizations have done. These are all independent organizations. So as any request came in, once I filed for candidacy, I answered them. I answered any of the ones that I wanted to pursue. Interviews were scheduled. This was not just for me. They would schedule them in a slate, so you would see the schedule for any candidates, whether it was for state office or whether it was for county council. Some of them we went in together, like Paul Schwartz, sorry, I want to specify which Paul I'm talking about. Paul Schwartz and I were interviewed together at the same time for the McGeo endorsement. They interviewed other council candidates 2 at a time for that as well. So their processes are independently set by each of their organizations. The AFL-CIO interviewed 3 of us at a time. And so those were all left to the discretion and decision of those organizations, but I'm incredibly happy to have the number of AFL affiliates and our DC Council, LIUNA, MCEA, the IAFF, Montgomery County Volunteer Fire Association. I am proud to be supported by our public service providers and by the unions and the realtors. Thank you. Don't want to forget the realtors. Go GCAR. Thank you.
Thank you. Jacqueline,
Yes.
Olney seems to be becoming a destination. We have the Olney Theater, we have MedStar Montgomery, we have the new crop dusters at OBGC, we have
Yes.
places doing wedding receptions, we have wineries, and we have beer farms. And Olney's original master plan is we are not a destination for shopping. So Olney seems to be creating a niche of other destinations for fun stuff, I'd like to call it. Now, something that has become quite an issue is a place to stay overnight, because when people leave Olney to go to sleep, they leave with their money. And so this is, nobody has a perfect answer. We're not asking for an answer. Unless you have one, I'd love to hear it. But how do you resolve this kind of growth and conflict that we might have without creating a backlash from the current residents? Because in general, people are going to say, not in my backyard, I don't want that. But we have this need. So there's always that friction. So if you could kind of share your thoughts on how you would approach a problem such as this, where we have this problem, we have the solution, not everyone's going to be happy with the solution.
Yeah, that's a great one. And a little plug with the crop dusters, July 11th, I'll be throwing out the first pitch. So if you want to have a lot of fun, you can come see me do that. So I'm really excited to be living in this community. And with all this development in what I would say is like around having fun in your community, right? Arts and culture destination. I've talked with some of the people in this room actually about how we should capitalize on that, advertise it better. We have, in Montgomery County, we actually fund, it's another NGO that handles really sort of tourism and trying to entice groups to come to our county and use our facilities. Most of the hotels being not in Olney, right? We have a bed and breakfast that's in the region, and make the county a destination. I would embrace, look, I'm a business person. I've already talked about the fact that I think the only way that we're going to maintain the quality of life that we have in this county is that we need to grow our economy, and all of these institutions that you just named will feed our economy. Besides some place to stay, traffic is involved, right? I've heard some people talking about the fact that the crop dusters are here. We're looking and working very hard as a community to build, hopefully if we can do a deal, right, with the county to get the land to build a new facility that's on the OBGC grounds that might bring even more people into our community. So what would I do? I would involve everybody. I would go back to the chamber, I would go to GOCA, I would go to all of the neighborhood civic associations, and I would try to explain to them that sometimes growth, and this is kind of growth, right, but it's good growth, is messy. And pull everybody together and try to explain to them the benefits of all of this stuff happening. I don't know that it would be horrible necessarily that we would have a place where people might be able to stay in our own community. I don't know how many of you might like to have although my father lives with me, so my husband would say his in-laws are in there permanently, but your in-laws are visiting. Maybe it would be nice if they were at a bed and breakfast or a hotel around the corner and not staying in your own house. That might be a good thing, right? It would be communication with people, bringing them to the table, and really selling them on it. But I'd like to double down on this. I'd like to see people come here and going on beer tours. And exploring what part of the Ag Belt is in District 7 and then going up into District 2 and exploring the part of the Ag Belt that is there. Agro-tourism is really cool and lots of fun. I also think it's the way we would attract young people to want to stay in our community and live in our community if we made them aware that there was all this really cool stuff up here in District 7. So communication and partnership.
Thank you. Ben, you have stated on your websites as well as even in your opening statement that you're really looking to have a responsive government, of the people, for the people, and you want to simplify the bureaucracy, you want to make the government more transparent and accountable, you want to eliminate needless, wasteful redundancy in government and improve communication. When you look at the county budget to free up the much-needed taxpayer funds to go for the needs of the people rather than feeding and growing the bureaucracy, to continue to finish your quote, most of, like 3/4 of the budget is county employee salaries and benefits. So as you look for removing any redundancy at a large scale, if you find that redundant people to be redundant, would you intend to reduce the county workforce?
So maybe a story might be helpful in answer to this. This past summer, the state of Maryland and then the county passed some new laws that allowed for non-citizens to be able to access tax credits, particularly the earned income tax credit, okay, the state earned income tax credit. It's called the WFIS in the county. And it's a pretty powerful economic stimulus for low-income earners, okay? It's been around in this county for over 20 years. It's been empowering low-income earners for well over 20 years in this county. And it is done through different sources, but the county's CAA, Community Action Agency, through the VITA program, it's there. I wonder how many people know about it, okay? And so when the county changed its rules in following the state to give access to, and Hucker's on record as saying that there's now, I think he said, what was it, over 100,000 newly eligible, okay, to participate in this. Our organization said, hey, this is a tremendous opportunity for greater impact, to be able to help those who are struggling, both in the pandemic as well as just overall. And so we started our own VITA site. We were able to go through that whole process with the IRS, which is not easy, I might add, but we got it done. Now, why am I bringing this up? Because not too long ago, the county added another program, the UBI program, the Universal Basic Income Program. They did a 300-person pilot, and it came out with a big splash. Look at this, a great program that we're doing, and they've invested multi-millions of dollars. Here's the issue. The issue is that, by the way, I support the UBI. I think it has a lot to commend. But the issue is that we have something, an infrastructure. We have a vehicle that is proven to help low-income earners, that is demonstrably strong. Let's strengthen that. Instead, the county created a new program and said, hey, look what we've done. Look, this is so exciting. Well, that's an additional layer of bureaucracy. That's an additional layer of administration. That is a multi-million-dollar venture for 300 people in this county. These are the type of things which I think... Am I time up already?
Yes.
Oh, wow. That was fast. All right.
When you get excited.
I do get excited.
All right, Paul, what do you envision being in an Olney Town Commons? It's something the community has been asking for. And where is the Olney community in the process of getting a town center commons in Olney? And what would you be able to do as a council member to help move the process forward?
Yeah, it's interesting that most plans now, you're used to being home now and ordering stuff over Amazon, so you don't have to go out and be in the malls. So the malls are like all closing up now, right? So what they do in planning is they try to have, like you have at the Crown Center in Gaithersburg, where you have a community where you have business, retail outlets, and housing all together. So you really don't have to go too far. You can be in your neighborhood. Someone who was growing up in Brooklyn, that's how we grew up. I was able to walk to the supermarket. There wasn't even a parking lot by the supermarket. So it was all inclusive. So the town center here, if we could have something that reflects that kind of development where you have something that's already all together as a community. Where that would be, I'd have to find out from the community where is the best place, where it doesn't infringe on their own situation. So in answer to your question, when I'm on the county council, I will be fighting for development of that, but getting the input from the community as to what to build and where to build it. The thing I mentioned every place that we spoke, and they've all heard this, is up until now, you've had no representation because the representatives you've had focused strictly on Wheaton. This is the first time you're going to have somebody actually fight for you on the county council, regardless of who it is. Yeah, I think I'll do the best job, but that's beside the point. You have somebody who's a lot better than what you had before. So in answer to the question, I don't have a full answer because I'd have to find out about it. But I would do that by involving the community that's impacted.
All right, and in light of the timing, we're going to reduce the time of this last question to 2 minutes. That way you have a longer time to do your closing for 4 minutes. I didn't want to cut that time. So we'll get right into it, Mr. Geller. If elected and Thrive 2050 came to the council as is, would you vote to approve it? And please include any explanation of your position.
No, I would not approve it as it is right now. There hasn't been enough inclusion of the community in the process. And don't take my word for it, because that sounds like a real political answer. It is the truth. But just do a word search in Thrive 2050. Type in Olney. Type in Brookville. Type in Sandy Spring. Type in Ashton, and you're going to come up with a big total of almost no hits at all. This really doesn't include the District 7 community, and that's a tragedy. As someone who's really prided himself on, for years, representing underrepresented people and groups in this entire county, I have to tell you, the number of people who weren't included in this process is extraordinary for any public document. Moreover, there's another point that needs to be made, and that is Thrive 2050 was really created pre-pandemic. Life has changed significantly. I know that's going to come as a shock to many of you, but life has changed significantly. A lot more people are working at home. A lot more businesses are struggling to find employees. It's a different environment that we're in right now. So we have to be much more cognizant of that. We also have to make sure that when we go back to the drawing board on 2050, and certainly as a council member, I would make sure that they would do this. Planning Commission and other people who have, in a way, a very vested interest in this, come to each individual community, both virtually and in person, and discuss it with you. And do it very openly and say, this is why we're doing this plan, we want to get your feedback. I think that's very important across the board, no matter if we're talking about Thrive 2050, funding our schools, SROs, building businesses, traffic, whatever. It has to be an open dialogue. We can't just, as council members, just vote and then disappear. We have to be present. So I will definitely make sure that we get that.
Thank you very much. Sharif? In District 7, many of our roads are only 2 lanes, one each way. In order to alleviate traffic congestion, what do you propose to reduce congestion on our roads?
Thank you for that question. That reminds me of the Bethesda forum that we had, that I was the only candidate that actually described an issue in our community in Olney, which was that Dunkin' Donuts at southbound Georgia Avenue in Morningwood. What people fail to address is that's a permitting issue. That used to be a bank. It can't accommodate a drive-through, and that goes through the permitting services. We don't get, I was one of the officers that actually wrote tickets over there. Sorry if you got one, if you're in the audience. But here's the thing, that's why it's such a big pet peeve for me. When I called, this is why I believe I need to be your representative on the county council, is I take it one step further. Anybody who knows me knows I don't just accept the answer and then say, well, there's nothing we can do about it. I actually called permitting services when it became, board's ugly head about the traffic there. I called over there and they told me that they don't do, when they're issuing a permit, they don't do a traffic study. Well, okay, fine, that's fine. We want to promote business. We want to make sure we don't put any barriers on businesses to let's get them at least started. But when you identify a problem, it's like what Milton Friedman always says, you don't judge a policy based on its intention, you judge it by its results. And if the results are bad, you gotta change it. So, if elected, there would be a text amendment to address businesses that contribute to the congestion of traffic. That's what I would do. We have to focus in, you see, there's not a one-size-fits-all. You can't govern that way when you say there's a one-size-fits-all anything. If there's anything, I got a 5-year-old at home and an 8-year-old at home. Trust me, there's no one-size-fits-all in anything we do in life. Same thing with permitting services. You have to take each individual case and address it individually. That's the one thing I would do here in Olney, is sign up a zoning text amendment to address if you run a drive-through and it affects other people from, it's impeding traffic, it will be addressed.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Dawn?
Yep.
On your website, you state, recovering from the COVID-19 pandemic, you will require sustained commitment and long-term investments in economic development. It would also require prudent fiscal management and accountability in order to ensure that our taxpayers' dollars are invested wisely to achieve maximum benefit for our taxpayers. What would the long-term investment in an economic development you mentioned look like?
So, for example, there's the program now at the state, at the Department of Housing and Community Development, and I wrote it down so I wouldn't forget the name of it. The Project Restore Program Fund that was funded federally with $25 million. There was a bill to try and have the state budget also allocate $25 million to that this year. It didn't move. It wasn't a bipartisan bill, and that's kind of a shame because the whole point of that is to allow financial incentives for small businesses to sustain and or operate and increase growth within your small businesses, and allow for investment for commercial developers to take vacant properties, vacant commercial properties, and retail space, and redevelop them, right? Match your business need that's now, that's current, post-pandemic. This is a time more than ever when we need a program like that because, you know, we do, as folks have said, we are shifting how we work, we're shifting how we shop, we're shifting what we do, and where we want to go. And so we need to think about that, and we also need to make sure we have a strong investment, not just from federal funds, but from the state as well, and take advantage of that. So we have 3 opportunity zones in the Up-County. One of them that is squarely within District 7 in Montgomery Village. We have one that's partially split between 3 and 7 around Redland and Durwood and then trickles down. And then one that's in District 2. But those 3 opportunity zones that I'm talking about that affect this Up-County area that's getting new voices need to collaborate across the districts within the council to take advantage of those programs that are offered federally, to take advantage strategically of how to obtain additional state funding for those things, and also to make sure, again, are we leaving anything on the table that we shouldn't be leaving on the table, right? Because there's money out there, we have to be more creative about getting it and bringing it home.
Thank you very much. Jacqueline?
Yes.
What do you think the best way is to improve the relationship between the community and our police, as well as how do we increase our young people wanting to become police officers?
So I'm so happy that you've asked me a law enforcement question. Thank you. I'm from a law enforcement family. Community policing is how I would start. I'm going to go back to the SROs. It's something this community, from one side to the other, has said that they support. At the same time, I do want to acknowledge that I believe also in the same community that there are people that don't necessarily want to see police in their schools. I've met a lot of the ones that are doing this job. They're doing great work. We need to make sure that that presence is there. And here's my thesis, my reason for this. This is, to me, the front line of community policing. If we are going to encourage the next generation of young people to want to serve our communities in this way, and it is a form of service, we need to have the opportunity for them to have relationships with these people. And I see school-based officers as one of the ways that that happens. They shouldn't be involved in discipline. That's a principal's job. But they should be a trusted voice walking up and down the hallways for them. So to me, it's like the tip of the spear of community policing. We need our police force to look like our community. And the only way to get the community involved in wanting that as a job, I think, is to build that trust at the youngest levels. I think we could build the cadet program that way, get more students that would want to be involved in that, and increase the pipeline. This is about trust. And now I've forgotten the question.
We have 8 seconds, so.
That's good.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll bring it on home. This is about trust. I'm just going to end there. This is about trust. Community and trust. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Hey, Mr. Wickner? A large portion of our district is the agriculture reserve, an area that limits development in order to preserve farmland. How have you seen the AG reserve change, and how do you see it evolving going forward?
Yeah, I love the Ag Reserve. I'm so thankful that it is a part of our county, part of our vision. The District 7 has about 40% of the entire Ag Reserve, and it is a treasure, quite frankly. Moving forward, we want to protect what it is, that treasure of green space, of environmental protection. It has also become a tremendous place for agribusiness. I believe there's somewhere in the neighborhood of $250 billion that comes from the Ag Reserve on an annual basis. There are over 500 farms in the Ag Reserve. We need to support that. We need to grow that, and we need to continue to. So not only is the Ag Reserve such a beautiful green space, an environmental friendly space, but it is also a productive, economically strong, and the council can support that and help to make that come to pass.
Thank you very much. Oh, sorry. All right, Mr. Schwartz. The Montgomery County Economic Development Corporation has a mission the mission is to help folks start to grow a business in Montgomery County by connecting entrepreneurs to resources, to funding, to permitting, and more. You have proposed creating a business SARD to help small businesses. How would this person be different from what is currently in place so it's not redundant?
The key is how much teeth the position has. It's not a question of having a position, it's a question of having a position that can resolve the issues. And the permitting process is so convoluted that you really need somebody who the people seeking the business could go to, and they could expedite resolution. There's so much bureaucratic nonsense that goes on, and hurdles that are unnecessary. I've spoken to people, small businesses in the community, and they were giving me stories. One was that there's a process of going through 5 separate entities. So if you get to the second entity, and he in charge of that entity happens to be on vacation, you don't go on to the third entity or the fourth or the fifth and then go back to number 2. No, you wait for number 2 to come back from vacation. That's ridiculous. So that's the kind of example where you have to be able to go to someone and not go through a machinery, but go through an individual who has teeth to straighten that out. There's examples where a small business gets direction from the county council, and then when they go to the inspector says, nah, that's wrong. Well, we have to have somebody to go to where they can combine those so you're not getting mixed signals. And just speeding up the process, instituting turnaround times. The 2 issues that are highlighted the most is cost of the process and time of the process. There's no excuse why we can't have a specific turnaround time for the whole process to be completed. So there's a lot that can be done, and there's no reason why we're not doing it now, but it's going to take somebody from here, I guess, to really push that issue, because District 7 needs to have the small businesses be able to thrive here, because there's only 2 ways of getting revenue. Either increase your taxes or expand the tax base. And by making it more encouraging to be able to open up small businesses. You create jobs, jobs create opportunities, you cut down on crime. If the high school students have opportunities when they leave high school, everything is tied together. But the bottom line is making it an open environment to encourage businesses to want to create over here.
Thank you very much. All right, so now it's time for our concluding statements. Each candidate has 4 minutes and can choose to answer a question that was asked to a different candidate, or just share your vision for District 7 and what legislation priorities you will work on first. Or why they think that they are the best person to represent District 7. So we will start with Mr. Geller.
Well, first of all, thank you very much for putting this on tonight. Thank you to everyone for attending. Thank you to everyone for sponsoring this. This is a great opportunity that we've had to answer a slew of interesting questions that we really appreciate. So thank you for that opportunity. One question that I would like to address right off the bat is the Only Town Center. For years, there's been talk, there's been planning, there's a committee that's met in order to get this project done. I will make you a promise that if elected, within 4 years, I will find the funding in the county budget, working with my colleagues, to make sure that the project is built. I've been talking to Jim Smith and members of the committee, finding out exactly what needs to be done. And they've been very gracious in providing sketches of plans. And I have to tell you, as someone who's a full-time advocate for the schools writ large, someone who spends a lot of time with the Board of Education, the County Council, and in Annapolis getting a significant amount of funding, the first thing that you need in a big project like this is really a vision of what it is. Designs, plans, size, and scope. And I will say, at the risk of offending you, Barbara, we finally here and only had $1 million given in the budget to our police satellite substation to make it more permanent and to have meeting rooms there. Now, one idea that would be interesting for the community to explore is it possible that we could have meeting rooms next to the band shell? Could there be a police substation there? Could we enlarge it? Could it be actually built on the site of where we have the current farmers market? Things like that. Once those plans get a little bit more firmed up, and I certainly, as a council member, would be eager to be involved in that project, I would make sure that the funding was made available and get that done. You're talking about possibly a $5 to $8 million maximum project. Considering some of the money that I've been able to secure at different levels, that's very reasonable and only deserves it. It's been too long. The project is being done partially in memory of Joshua Freeman, who is a well-known member of the community, and we really should pursue it and get this done once and for all. I'm very honored to be endorsed by 2 county council presidents, former county council presidents, that each served 2 terms, Nancy Florine and Roger Berliner. I had the opportunity to work closely with them. This isn't just like a handshake deal. They actually offered to help me when I decided to run, and I'm grateful for their support. I'm also supported by Board of Education legends Mike Dursa, who's a past 2-time Board of Education president, and Dr. Alan Chung. I have numerous community members. I'd be happy to give you a flyer afterwards and show you some of the things that I plan on doing as your council member. The importance of listening to each and every one of you and being where you're at and finding out what you need. I also want to make sure that you know that one of the most important aspects of this job is teamwork and community building. I cannot come up here and say, I'm just going to set the world on fire and get everything done. Everything takes a majority vote. And now more than ever, we have a unique experience here in Montgomery County. Right now, today, you have 5 votes on the county council. You have your 1 district representative and your 4 at-large members. So if you can get those 5 to agree, you're all set. It's a whole new world in December. You're going to need a council member who can work with others, build coalitions, and get things done. I'm very fortunate to know almost all the candidates in all the races. I've worked alongside many of them. I'm eager to serve them. I'm eager to serve you. My name is Paul Geller, and I humbly and kindly ask you for your vote on July 19th. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. This is also a time where you can add on to another person's answer.
Yes.
I'll help Jacqueline out a little bit. She mentioned that she said that she wants the police department to reflect the community. We already look like the community. In our police department, we have black people, white people, Hispanic people, Jewish people, Muslims, Asians. We got it all. We already took care of that. Actually, especially her husband is the one who contributed to that, making that happen. The second thing is that what we would fund to encourage that is PAL, Police Athletic League, in particular in minority communities. I got a story for you. I went to a recreation department when I was on the police department, and there was a young African-American young man, and he was naming some old heads on the police department. I said, you're young, how do you know all these older police officers? And he said, because I was a member of PAL, I don't have any problems with police. Because they built relationships at that age. That's how you get that relationship started. You start them young, and you start them with a program like PAL. We got rid of PAL. The Explorer program. I'm the only candidate who's actually said that I would fully fund the Explorer program as well. That's how you expand for our youth to join the police department, learn life lessons, and that's how you build that relationship. But once again, we do not have the strained relationship, the intellectual dishonesty that's going on that says that we have such a friction with the police department here in Montgomery County. We have one of the best departments in the country. I stand by that. And I'll challenge anybody afterwards to talk about it why, okay? You know, when I was a community service officer, I would go to community meetings all the time, civic associations, HOAs, bring them the crime stats, talk to them, never overpromise, definitely don't underdeliver. That's always been my motto. I also follow the theory of the 12 oranges. You ever heard about the 12 orange theory? It's when you're trying to negotiate something. I have 12 oranges, there's 2 people that want those 12 oranges. Everybody always says, we'll give 6 here, 6 there. I don't operate that way. We can give both people 12 oranges, but you have to talk to one another, you have to communicate. You find out the person on the left, he wants the juice from the 12 oranges. You find out from the right, they want the pulp from the 12 oranges. Both people got 12 oranges. That's the motto that I try to approach with everything I do. When my 5-year-old and 8-year-old start arguing, I say 12 oranges really loud, and they understand what that means. So that's the approach I want to bring to District 7 as your representative. And I'm the only candidate that put it on record publicly that I would fully fund the SRO program because I know it is a wonderful program. These are wonderful resources. They shouldn't be called CD, community engagement officers, because you're finding where the political wind is, like our county executive is doing right now. No, we're not going to play politics with our kids. It's a wonderful program. They mentor these kids. And a matter of fact, I have an example of Diane Henderson. She had a student at Wheaton High School that was heading down the wrong path and ended up becoming a police officer. And he's now in Wheaton, in the 4th District. Those are the real stories you need to hear, and no politician will tell you that. But I'll keep it straight with you. That's how I operate. I would love to have your vote. Please check me out at votesharif.com, and I humbly request you vote on July 19th for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Dawn?
Hi. As a mom, I have 4 kids. They are 14, 14, 13, and 10. We are busy. I asked them all individually what they thought about me running, right? And they all had a lot of different thoughts about that. They were all positive. They like what I do now, so they were kind of asking, well, how's this different from what you currently do? And I said, well, it's local, right? It gets me back to doing things locally. And it matters to them. And it especially matters to my daughters, right? We've had a council with 1 female representative for years. It's time for change. We do bring a different perspective, most definitely. And I submit to you that, again, the level of experience that I have had at the state level, working with our rural communities, our urban communities, our suburban communities, working in all 24 school systems, with our school safety coordinators, our behavioral health services coordinators in every public school system across the state. I meet with them monthly. And in all the work that I've done on mental and behavioral health, and in our first responder community with MIMS, with the Maryland Department of Emergency Management, and with our local emergency managers and on the active assailant interdisciplinary work group for the state of Maryland. I want to bring that back home to you. I've heard discussions tonight about where we need to go with public safety, and personally, like I said, I am near and dear to the SROs. They're a very important group for me. I spent a lot of quality time with them in the 2021 session explaining the Police Accountability Act that as it was working its way through, as it was getting amended, to make sure they understood what it actually said, what it didn't say, how not to get caught up in the sound bites. But I want to make this clear. When you're talking about the Police Accountability Act of 2021, and there are public policy reasons for that to be implemented statewide, or you're talking about the blueprint for Maryland's future, our broad sweeping landmark education reform bill, and the Built to Learn Act that goes with it. No different than the Safe to Learn Act in 2018, which I helped author. Those are not policies. Those are required. And if you are going to do those jobs, and you're going to work in the school system, you're going to be providing mental and behavioral health care, you're going to work in our public safety sector, that's your job to know those laws and to get it done. Now, I fully support knowing that we have to fund all of those initiatives and how it works and dovetails with what we do get funded from the state, right? That's critically important because we have a lot of work to do. And as I said on my website, coming out of the COVID-19 pandemic, of course there are lots of things we can blame on COVID. But frankly, a lot of things predated COVID, right? And this just put a huge spotlight on that, a huge spotlight on neglect, on things that weren't getting done. And frankly, I am not a big fan of analysis by paralysis, or paralysis by analysis. It's the other way around. Yes, it is. Okay. So we shouldn't be having work groups to study things unless we have a deliverable and a time frame, right? The county council is notorious for doing that. So I'm pledging to you open government, accessibility, community engagement from me, from my office. I think those of you who know me know I'm a pretty open and easily accessible person, but also that we are not going to do things unless they are serving a direct purpose. We don't have time for it, and you all deserve better. So thank you for having me tonight. You can see my website at www.dawnluebke.com, and I look forward to engaging with you further. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Jacqueline?
So thank you all for the opportunity to be with you tonight. Thanks to the organizers, appreciated the questions, who made this forum possible. In my final time to speak, I thought I'd share a little bit more about myself and what I think our priorities are from the many conversations that I've been having with the community. I live in Olney. I didn't say that before. I can actually walk home from here. I live with my husband, a career law enforcement officer, my 2 kids, now college age, my father, a retired naval officer, and my youngest sister, whose cognitive disability means she will always need extra support of living with me. My family provides really great perspective for me. From growing up in a military family to living in a law enforcement family, I understand the sacrifices of public servants. I'm going into this with wide, open eyes. Growing up with my sister Catherine gave me the gift of understanding what access and inclusion means. She's also pretty awesome. She's a great sister and friend. You guys have a decision to make in this primary. Who to vote for, right? To help you, I'd like to share how I'm different from my opponents, a little bit about that. I've built businesses in this county and understand the importance of small business owners, how they make a community. I recognize that they provide us not only with services and products, but they're the fabric of a vital community. For 7 years, I served on the Arts and Humanities Council of Montgomery County. It's an NGO funded by the county, and I was chair when we added transparency and transformed grant making in the county. I experienced the county budget process and committee process and advocated at that time to get capital funds for arts and cultural institutions added to the CIP. I'm a trained accountant, an MBA, I understand and have dealt with complex budgets and finance. This is the work of a council, right? Why is this important? Everything we value, strong schools and safe schools, protecting the environment, improved transportation, all these things need resources. We must grow the economy, expand jobs. Economic development goals must be measurable and they require accountability. Our county services, they must improve. You've heard a lot about that tonight. Streamlining permitting and inspection and increased investment in small business navigators are just a start. We should leverage county buying power to stimulate inclusive economic growth. We should invest in innovation and micro-business development and build capacity in our nonprofits, all as a means to solve problems and deliver solutions to our community. We've got to address development and housing affordability as we work to grow the jobs, to expand the resources, to grow the pie. We require holistic solutions, and I have the experience and the expertise to deliver those. I think Montgomery County, and in particular this area, I live in the greater Olney area, D7 is pretty darn awesome. I'm running to serve you guys, to continue to listen to you, and to partner with you so that we can move Montgomery County forward. My website's majorformontgomery.com. I'm Jacqueline at majorformontgomery.com. Really, you can walk to my house from here. I'm open to talking about anything you guys want to, and really looking forward to meeting you all out there after we're done. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Ben?
One of the joys of being a candidate is that you get to know the other candidates in the process and the journey. And so I have enjoyed that. We have a talented group of people. We have a passionate group of people. And Jack, I just want to say I appreciate what you shared there.
Thank you.
I need to begin and use my 3.5 minutes now by making a correction, because I believe in accuracy. And I think I may have said that $280 billion for the ag business. You got that. It's $280 million, okay, of ag business and ag reserve. So just, where I'm wrong, I want to make sure that I get it right. You know, I'm a truth teller, folks. Maybe that's partly the pastor in me. Maybe it's partly just the way God has made me. But, you know, part of being a truth teller means that you have to be willing to challenge the establishment, challenge the Goliaths of the world. And sometimes that Goliath is the county council, the county government. Sometimes that Goliath is MCPS. And, you know, with MCPS, I believe I support MCPS. But I really support excellence in education. If that means that we have to challenge MCPS in order to get that, that's what we have to do. And you need leadership for that. You need people who know how to work with others. You know how to get things done in difficult situations, complicated situations. That's what leadership is. I think I'm the one person up here that has qualified for the Public Election Fund. And part of the benefit of qualifying for that is, one, my campaign coffers are fuller, but the other is I've had to raise all my money from individuals, $250 less. No political parties, no big dollar donations, no businesses, no corporations. This is a campaign of the people, by the people, for the people. And that's really important to me, because it is important to be somebody who will be willing to stand up and challenge the system in order to bring about the necessary change, but to be able to do so collaboratively, okay? And so, you know, what I believe is we have to work together, because we want to see smarter, common sense government that works for the people. We got a $6.3 billion budget. We're the 17th wealthiest county in America. When that money is not being well spent, people are hurt, people are harmed, whether it's in roads and transportation, or whether it's in housing, or whether it's in social services. And the people who can most ill afford to be harmed by it are the ones that are most affected, typically. So that's part of my fight. That's part of the reason why, a big part of why I am running for county council, even though I have never run for public office before. and I'm eager to be able to serve. One of the things, again, just to repeat, the D7 People's Committee is to get the voice of the people. I'm here to serve District 7, the voice of the people of District 7. That means I need to be hearing and listening to them, something that I've cultivated in my pastoral ministry for sure. And so, folks, just want to conclude by saying that it's a privilege to be here with you this evening, and I do hope that you will continue to stay engaged, that you will not only vote but get others to vote, that you'll consider voting. I hope I can earn your vote and be able to serve you as well as the rest of District 7 as your county council member. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Paul?
First off, I want to thank everybody for showing up, because it shows you care. Especially that gentleman who listened to us on Monday and showed up again, correct? You were there on Monday. Thought you looked familiar. So anyway, I do want to thank everyone for caring, because to maintain our democracy requires us to care. I do want to start off by saying that I am not running because I need something to do to occupy my time. I have a lot to do, but I'm trying to share my experience. I am old, okay? I bring youthful energy, but a lot of old people experience. You can't have the amount of experience I have without getting to this age. I got to tell you, all right? I mentioned about developing legislation. Yes, I was instrumental in the legislation for the post-Katrina Emergency Management Reform Act. I'm proud of that. And I mentioned before about the legislation in Annapolis about getting the tax break. Finally, a tax break, can you believe that? We finally got a tax break out of Annapolis. But more than that, I'm proud of the fact that I was experienced in developing the programs to implement that legislation, because that's where you find out not just how the legislation is going to be implemented, but who's responsible for doing what. So that I'm going to bring to the county council, because whether it's transportation or housing or criminal justice or education, all these things are tied together, and you have to build those coalitions. When I mentioned before about integrating the 26 disparate federal agencies under the new umbrella of Homeland Security, what I would get back from each of the agencies was, we're different. Overcoming that, of course I would tell them, you are different. You're as different as everyone else. But overcoming that, to finally integrate that humongous department was not easy, but it required building coalitions. When I mentioned before about working with the state and local governments after Katrina to identify vulnerabilities, I can't tell you how many after Katrina they would say, we'll tell you, federal government will tell you what we need when we need it. And I would explain how then it's a little bit too late, like Katrina. So it's building those coalitions and getting that buy-in. So as far as what I stand for, which is I'm sure what you want to know, is three things: safety, environment, and equity. Safety includes school safety, and yes, Sharif, I was for putting the SROs back in the schools well before Magruder. That's because of a company I worked with after I retired, but before I worked for the newspaper, and before I came here, is to a company named Safe Plans. And we conduct a school safety and security assessment of school systems throughout the country, the entire country. And every single principal, including the principals in Montgomery County, all said they want the SROs in because they feel safer. If an SRO is not doing the job the way he's supposed to and it's causing more harm than good, you remove the SRO, from, you move him to a different position. You don't do away with the program, which is what they did in Montgomery County. And when I saw they did that, my head just almost exploded, almost. So school safety includes school safety, gun safety, community safety, addressing the scourge of hate crimes. Environment, balancing that development development with the environment. One size does not fit all, especially in a district that has 16 different communities. So we have to have that balance so we don't overdevelop and we maintain the character of the community. And the other one is the equity. And part of that is equal opportunity, right? And that means tying jobs to schools and having more vocational training so that if somebody is not college bound, they can still have a link to a job, all right? And, link to a job. And so it's tying all those things together, and that takes coordination. So I'll end with this. A lot of talk was about endorsements. So I'll leave you with this. You've heard it before, Fred, but I'm going to say it again. The immortal words of none other than Mel Brooks, who famously said in the movie Spaceballs, what did he say? He said, "May the Schwartz
Be with you.
be with you." Thank you, everyone. Because I'm Schwartz, you elect me, I will be with you. Check out my website at www.schwartz.com.
As we wrap up, I want to thank Our Lady of Good Counsel High School for the use of this beautiful performing arts center tonight. I also want to thank Patty and Curtis for being our light for the 30-second warnings. I also really want to thank each and every one of the candidates here that has joined us tonight. It is a lot to put yourself out there, to say, you know, put your hand up and say, pick me, here's what I want to do. It takes a lot of work, a lot of commitment to run, and even more if you're elected, and I just want to say personally, thank you.
Thank you.
This event has been recorded. I'm hoping the sound turns out okay. We had some sound issues. With the lights, did Harold Maldonado arrive? Did I miss him? Because I just wanted, he's the Republican running, and he'll be on the ballot in November, and I just wanted to point him out if he was here. The primary election is in the middle of July, which is so easily missed. So an early voting starts on July 7th, and we have the representative from the Board of Elections, Nina, in the hall. Raise your hand for the latecomers. Would gratefully accept your help to be an election judge. It is super important with many, like over 200 precincts. You've got many days of early voting. It's not hard work. Talk to Nina. She can tell you more about it out in the hall while you eat a cookie. And you can also change your party affiliation. You can register to vote with her tonight. All those things are possible. Now, each of the candidates has a website you can check out, and they'll be in the hall in just a few minutes. And most importantly, vote. Encourage everyone you know to vote. Once we get this posted, share the link with your friends and family, because I think a couple people are glued to their TVs tonight for some things that are happening on the national level. So keep that in mind and share what you know about, what you've learned about the candidates. Be safe and good night.
Thank you, Barbara.